Hi, I'm Jazmin, and this is Not Another PD. It's for helping professionals who are tired of theoretical training that doesn't translate to the work you actually do. Here, we talk boundaries, leadership, systems, and how to protect your well-being while doing complex work every day. I'm so glad you're here. Episode 37. I work with so many leaders and we're having conversations regularly, and something that's coming up for leaders is the increase in their organizations or in their teams around the use of unplanned leave. So in particular, sick leave, but also that sick leave is being used as a mental health day. And under Fair Work legislation in Australia, whether someone requires sick leave for mental health reasons or physical health reasons, the use of sick leave for either purpose, it doesn't discriminate. So staff are just as able and entitled to use their sick leave on mental health grounds compared to some kind of physical ailment like a flu. But essentially, this is becoming an issue for leaders. And I firstly just wanted to put it out there that this episode is not in any way criticizing anyone for taking their entitlement of sick leave. Absolutely not. I was an employee for a very long time, and using sick leave is very, very important. And in my last few years of working in government, I had a total of 3 surgeries. I had a lot of sick leave because I'd been working in the government for such a long time. And for the first several years of working in government, I was actually really terrified of using sick leave. And I was worried about what my manager would think of me, what my colleagues would think of me. Just worried about that judgment in using my entitled sick leave for a very long time. And things started to shift for me in my mindset around that when my children became sick. I ended up needing to take carer's leave, and it seemed for me almost more tolerable and less uncomfortable for me to sit with the fact that I'm not choosing to have this day off. I'm not sick. The fact that then my children were unwell and I needed to take that sick leave in the form of carer's leave for me just seemed, it didn't put so much of a bad taste in my mouth. So that was some of my earlier experiences with sick leave. And over time, it shifted when I experienced a lot of health issues. I experienced burnout. And then I acknowledged that I hadn't taken any of my entitled sick leave, like for myself. What I wanted to unpack a bit further in this episode, and from that leadership perspective, is what happens when sick leave keeps increasing and it becomes a bit of a pattern either with certain staff or in teams. But also the second part of that question is, what might that be telling us about the workplace? Then that should be a little bit of an alert for us that something's not going as planned. That we have this epidemic of sick leave. It's on the rise. Why is it on the rise? And so organizations, sometimes they just see the end result being almost at the tip of the iceberg. They see that sick leave is on the rise, and they also then see the impact, the negative impact that has on the leaders. So it's more work that they have to do. But also part of it is that organizations sometimes, and I don't mean organizations, I mean leaders specifically. So sometimes team leaders, and I've certainly heard this on so many occasions, that sick leave is being suggested in some of the following ways. So you may hear, maybe yourself as a leader, you've said some of these things like just take a day off, take a week off, use EAP, have a well-being day, have a mental health day. And while none of these suggestions are bad, They may be helpful for that one day or that one week, but they don't actually look beneath the iceberg, what's happening that's causing the staff to be distressed and what's leading you to suggest as a leader to potentially take a well-being, mental health day or week off. So a question that I often speak to leaders about is asking them to sort of reflect is, what is the role that the helping professionals are doing? What's the role asking of people that they actually need to recover from in the form of sick leave? So some examples, and all the examples, I won't list them all because essentially all the examples are known and legislated and recognized psychosocial hazards in the workplace. Just to name a few, I'll sound like a broken record here, but excessive workload, the emotional demands of the job. Sometimes it's a lack of role clarity, lack of support or perceived support from the managers. So these are some things that are often sitting beneath the surface. So if we see sick leave as the small tip of the iceberg on top of the icy water, then beneath the surface where the iceberg is larger, then these are some of those factors that lead to the sick leave being considered absolutely necessary by either that manager, that leader, or the individual staff member. So leave can absolutely be a bit of a circuit breaker, but it's not actually a solution. It's similar to the use of a Band-Aid. So we love Band-Aids in our house. Absolutely, we love them. I really embarrassed my older daughter recently when I had on, I don't know what, I think it was like a Coles brand Band-Aid, and it had little like emoji monster creatures on it. And we were at the shopping center. We were meeting up with her friend and her friend's mum. My older one is the teenager, so everything I do is embarrassing at this point. I just have to live with that fact that I'm just embarrassing. Doesn't matter what I do, where, how I act. I'm just forever embarrassing. And my daughter had seen this monster emoji Band-Aid that I had over one of my nails. And I had it over one of my nails. I have gel extensions. One of my nails had split. So it didn't look great, but it was also quite painful, if I'm being honest with you. And I didn't have time to go to the nail salon. So before we left home, I went into my daughter's bathroom, and the first packet of Band-Aids I laid eyes upon happened to be the monster emoji Band-Aid. So on it went. And my daughter said, "Mum, you're so embarrassing. Keep that hand down for the duration of our lunch." And I talk a lot with my hands, in case you haven't realized, and I had to put one arm down and speak with one arm, and to me, or with one hand, it seems so unnatural. But I was covering my damaged nail, my sore nail underneath, with a Band-Aid. So if someone is looking at me, they could see the Band-Aid. They don't know what's beneath the Band-Aid. It could have been anything. It could have been a burn from the kitchen. It could have been absolutely anything. But it just so happened that it was a damaged nail that I was trying to cover up. But the damage to the nail was just the same underneath. So putting the Band-Aid on didn't miraculously repair my damaged gel extension and the nail underneath that. It didn't fix any of that. It was still the very same underneath. I still needed to address what's underneath the Band-Aid. So I couldn't just keep the Band-Aid on indefinitely and just almost like out of sight, out of mind, that I can forget that I've got this painful, broken, damaged nail underneath because I've got a Band-Aid on top of it. I eventually had to acknowledge that, yes, when I have time, I need to go to the nail salon and fix this issue. It's exactly the same with sick leave. If, for example, a staff member is using sick leave to try and have a bit of a break from the unsustainable caseload that they have, the client caseload and the referrals they can't keep up. They're feeling so highly stressed, and they're worried that they're not able to give any of their clients the attention they need. And maybe they're not able to meet their KPIs because there's just not enough hours in the day. So they could take sick leave. They could take a week off. They could take 2 weeks off. They could take 4 weeks off of sick leave. I'm not advocating for that because that's very much avoidance at that point. But you could take all the sick leave you like, your team could take all the sick leave they like, but when they return, the very occurrence that they were trying to escape from, avoid, have a break from remains. Because putting a band-aid on it or taking sick leave, it doesn't fix the initial issue, which is what is the main purpose of me recording this episode, is to say that by taking sick leave as a circuit breaker, it's not a solution, it's a band-aid. It may give you temporarily relief from the situation, like out of sight, out of mind, like me putting the band-aid on my damaged nail. So leaders need to be thinking about, are there particular teams, particular program areas that are taking more leave than others? Are there particular roles within those teams or program areas that are taking more leave than others? Do people just look exhausted? Do they actually look burnt out? Are people extending leave when they wouldn't normally? And also think about the supervision spaces. Are there certain themes that you're noticing as a leader in supervision around exhaustion, fatigue? If you're an organization, which I highly recommend that every organization does this, holding exit interviews for staff that have resigned, are there themes that are coming up in exit interviews around staff feeling fatigued, unsupported, exhausted? So just think about some of these things, because what I'm hearing from helping professionals, and I'll just share a few, is, and this is around their use of sick leave, is I just needed a break. I couldn't face work today. I'm just exhausted. I spent my leave recovering from work. Another one, which was so powerful, is when I'm in a bad mood, I take sick leave. And when I'm in a bad mood and not in a good place, I can't help anybody. And these things are really confronting. They're really confronting for me as a leader. But again, just to reiterate, it's not about blaming any certain employees or saying that they're good, they're bad, they're not dedicated to the job. It's actually just looking at what is contributing to the increase of sick leave more generally as a team, and also looking at it from that psychosocial hazards lens. So let's put our psychosocial hazards hat on and think about what's actually happening in the workplace that makes your staff think that sick leave is the band-aid that they absolutely need to get through this difficult workplace. And as leaders, we do play a role. We play a key role in creating spaces where concerns can be discussed earlier through supervision, through reflective practice, any other informal one-on-one catch-ups with your teams, through team meetings. Have conversations early and look at any repeated issues or themes that are coming up for the staff and see what we can do to improve. When staff realize that sick leave hasn't solved the problem because it's just a band-aid, then that can sometimes lead to resignations. And when we have amazingly skilled, qualified, and passionate staff resigning in droves, we've got a real issue. And then it's too late to have those conversations about how can we best support you? Because if they're resigning, I'm sorry, but you've lost them. So just in closing, I just wanted to rehash what we've spoken about, that sick leave itself isn't the problem, and it's not about blaming or shaming staff. The real question we need to be asking as leaders is what's actually going on beneath the surface, knowing that the use of sick leave is the tip of the iceberg, and beneath the iceberg sits so much other stuff. And a lot of that is related to psychosocial hazards in the workplace. And we all have a responsibility to be aware of these psychosocial hazards and do our best to, if we can't eliminate them, reduce the impact they have on your staff. Thank you for joining me on Not Another PD. If this episode was helpful and you'd like to find out more, you'll find ways to work with me in the show notes. And if there's a topic you would like covered or someone you think should be on the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Remember, clear boundaries don't just protect our clients, they protect us too.